Welcome to the Parenting Power Podcast, supporting parents with the real-life tools they need to raise the confident, interdependent people the world needs. Gail Bell and Julie Friedman-Smith interview experts who share their knowledge to assist parents in creating a home environment where kids can thrive.
Hello, this is Julie Friedman-Smith.
And I'm Gail Bell.
We're so glad that you're tuning into our podcast because it gives us a chance to share ideas of experts that are making a difference for parents. Today, we are speaking with Bill Dwight. Bill is the founder and CEO of famzoo.com, a virtual family bank that integrates prepaid card accounts with family finance software to help parents and kids develop responsible money habits through hands-on experience. Bill has been building software products since 1984, and he founded FamZoo in 2006. And as many of you know, if you've been following Parenting Power for a while, Gail and I are big fans of FamZoo. We both use it with our families and have since our kids were quite little, and it's just simplified our allowance tremendously. So we are so happy to welcome you, Bill. It is great to be speaking with you.
Well, Julie, Gail, I'm delighted to be here, and thank you for using FamZoo. I appreciate it.
Well, Bill, we think it is a great solution for families looking for an easy online tool to help them navigate and learn how to help their kids learn about money and finances. What motivated you to start FamZoo?
Well, my wife and I have 5 children, so there you go. There's a motivation. When the older two were approaching middle school, sort of the early teen years or just preteen, it dawned on us that nobody was teaching them about personal finance, and that's a pretty essential life skill. And
Definitely.
so we were just kind of looking for a way to give them hands-on experience managing money. And being busy families, it's kind of too much of a hassle to go down to the bank and open up accounts. And I mean, FamZoo is short for my family is a zoo. So we get it. Like, parents are insanely busy. And I was just looking for a real simple way for the kids to practice managing a pool of money that was their own money, that they were responsible for, and also some sort of system that allowed them to make mistakes without serious repercussions. So, for example, you wouldn't want to stick a credit card in the hands of a kid just learning about money because the repercussions could be severe. So that's how it started. We started out with coins and such, and when you've got 5 kids, putting coins and dollar bills in the sock drawer is not too safe. Kids ripping each other off. So not that would ever happen in my family. But then I kind of went to a spreadsheet so I wanted the kids to learn that, hey, money on a screen represented not just by coins or physical dollars, that's real money. And I think that's so incredibly important these days because we're headed more and more towards digital money, and kids need to understand, hey, that's a finite resource. It's real. It's not magical, and you need to practice mastering it and making trade-off decisions with it. And you need to learn that you work for money, but you can also put your money to work for you. And so that's why we wanted to teach them about compound interest and all those kinds of things. But that's how it started with the older 2 kids. And in retrospect, I would have started earlier, which we did. So that's why we had more kids, just so we could have them start earlier. I think that's how it goes. No, maybe that wasn't.
It's all research.
Kids. But, it's all retroactive history now. But, I think we often underestimate how much really young kids can understand about money. I mean, if we take the time to explain what's going on, then they get it. Kids are smart. That's why they're showing you how to use your iPhone.
You bet.
Yes, and I love this idea that bringing our kids to have an appreciation for this digital world of money. We know that kids starting out with concrete cash in their hands, making that transition from that, and actually even adults, making that transition from cash in hand to numbers on a screen can be a difficult one. So it's really is important to be teaching that skill. In our
Well, that's a
coaching
really
practice-
important point. I'm sorry to interrupt, but a lot of folks feel, gosh, I want it to be tangible for the kids, and I want them. And studies show that if you use cash, you spend less, right?
Yeah,
because you
exactly.
can sort of physically feel it. And I appreciate that. That's all true. The problem is that's not how they're going to be transacting in most cases. I
Mhm.
mean, let's face it,
Mhm.
they're just not. And so let's condition the kids to understand that digital money is real and has consequences as early as possible. I think the earlier that they kind of wrap their heads around that, the better. And then in our system, we try to do things to kind of put some of the pain back into digital cash, like send a text message as soon as you spend that says, here's the balance remaining and so forth, and put that mindfulness back in. There are little tricks that we can do to try to make the digital spending more mindful. But I don't think avoiding digital spending until what are you going to do? Wait till they're off to college? That sounds like a bad idea to
Oh
me.
no,
So
there's no way you could avoid
Yeah.
that. I really don't think there is a way that you can avoid that because everybody's whipping out a debit card. Like
mhm.
kids are doing that earlier and earlier. So I think that does make a lot of sense. In our coaching practice, we speak with so many families who are frustrated about the amount of money that they feel they're just doling out for their kids. Yet at the same time, they don't really have a money plan or a financial plan in place to help their kids learn. And so we are really working to support parents teaching their kids about money. What strategies can you share with parents to get started with their kids in this process?
Well, I think first of all, I think ownership is really key. So the concept of your child owning a finite pool of money that they have to manage is a really important concept rather than them always looking to you as the source of the funds. I mean, no
Mm-hmm.
matter how they quote earn it, and even if they don't earn it, even if they just have a fixed pool,
Yeah.
that they control and they make the decisions on. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's really key. And I think you need to have some sort of simple tracked system. This doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be an app or any of that stuff. It could be a piece of paper with a ledger on it that you're recording the transactions. And whether it's a ledger, a spreadsheet, a prepaid card, I get a little leery when you get into the adult banking products because they're really not built for the sharing amongst family members, and you might run into some fees there. So you just have to be careful. But some sort of system so that they can get repetitive hands-on experience managing money themselves and trying to allow them to make the decisions. Now, sometimes some of the decisions can be quite controversial about how they want to spend their money. You know, you're still the parent, you're still in
Mm-hmm.
charge. You might have some ground rules like beer and cigarettes, probably not a great idea for a
Probably
12-year-old.
not.
But you'll always get into sort of these gray areas like, oh, I want to purchase this online game, and maybe you have some concerns about it. One technique I like is having the kid write a written proposal so they write out a defense for why they want to make this purchase. And I just find that's really a great practice because it creates a discussion. And even if you end up vetoing it, at least they've felt that you've thoughtfully considered it, and they might decide that they don't want it after all. But that's a great tactic I like to use.
And that supports our belief about delayed gratification too. So it's not an instant purchase. It's something they think about. They might even change their minds writing out the proposal.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And that kind of goes back to like how much allowance or how much chore money or whatnot is appropriate. And it's like, well, it depends on what you're putting them in charge of buying. And just make sure that I don't have any religion around whether you pay for chores or have an allowance or you just are tracking one-off purchases, but have some constraints, and you'll know you're doing it right if the constraints are such that the the child has to make trade-offs between buying one thing or another, or they have to wait for a period of time. Then I think you've got it right. Otherwise, I think all the value is in having just thoughtful discussions with the parents, sort of regardless of which system. I think it's very difficult to prove that one particular system is better than the other, but I think it's intuitive that if you're having thoughtful discussions with your parents, you're on the right track.
We talk about at our company there's more than one right way to parent, which really mimics what you just said, is that you need to find the way that's right for your family, and that connection and discussion among the family is very important. I know that the way my kids have worked in that process, hasn't quite been a proposal, but oftentimes if it's a video game that they're both going to use together, or if it's music that they're both going to listen to, they'll work together to see how much each of them is going to contribute based on the money that they have in their account to pool together to purchase something. So that's just another way that it's kind of a team family decision.
Yeah, I think that's really neat. And what you're kind of socializing them to is it's okay to talk about purchases and evaluate them as a group. And I think that's a really healthy thing. It takes the taboo off of the money discussions. I think that's also another great reason to have a system like this is you get your kids comfortable talking about money and maybe their concerns about it. And that's a great way to avoid massive train wrecks when they're young adults. And also when they have spouses or partners later, they'll be more comfortable talking about money. And I think that's extremely healthy.
Definitely. When we talk about money management with kids, is middle school or the early teens a great age to start? And what should they know by 18 when they're leaving the nest potentially?
Yeah, in terms of like what age, it's so variable. And
It is.
I think that you just start with the conversations and you gauge what your child is absorbing and can handle. I would want to start as early as possible. The key is that you can fine tune it over time. You might start when the kid's a toddler, sort of picking up coins in the sofa and putting them into jars and things like that, and then teaching them that, okay, we're going to have compartmentalized money, like this jar is for spending, this is for saving, and this is for giving. That basic concept of, hey, my money has a purpose and I put it in little compartments for different purposes. And oh, by the way, that savings jar, every time I put a penny in, mom or dad puts a penny in. So money can work for me. Kids can get these basic concepts really early. And then we can just sort of evolve the system. So maybe it starts as the jars and then maybe it goes to a ledger on a piece of paper. So they're getting the idea that numbers and money kind of go hand in hand and you don't actually have to have the physical currency necessarily. And then maybe a spreadsheet and an app and all those things. Or you might just jump right to an app. Kids will get it if you're having the regular conversations with them. I think the tough thing for parents is that they often feel overwhelmed. Like money can be a big, complicated topic, and it doesn't need to be. And I like that approach that some folks came up with of sort of writing down your money goals on a note card. And this originally sort of came out for adults, but I have a little note card that I'm holding in my hand right now with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things I want to teach my kids about money. And it's very simple, and I just keep it next to my desk. And one is spending within your own means, using your own money. So that's where the spend, save, donate buckets come in. And they can't spend more than what's in their spend jar or their spending card or their spending account balance. And then I wanted them to have a sense that everyday living costs money. So I bill my kids at the end of the month for a fraction of the cell phone bill, just so they realize, hey, those things aren't free. I don't want them going off to college thinking that all these things are just freebies. And then the power of compound interest is so essential. So I pay them a very aggressive Bank of Dad interest rate that's on a weekly basis because I want to reinforce, hey, if I take my money out of spending and put it over here in savings, it's actually going to grow and it behooves me to keep my paws off of it. And then I also want them to know about the pain of debt. Some people say, oh, never lend your kids money. I think nonsense.
No.
Teach them. Each of my kids got a loan for a laptop computer. And then a portion of their, quote, wages were garnished over time to pay that back because I want them to realize going into debt is painful. And then lastly, I wanted the kids to learn about investing. And in the US, we have something called Roth IRAs. And as soon as they got that first summer job, we're able to open up a Roth IRA account. And it's a wonderful thing because it's a tax advantage account. We agree that X percent of their summer paycheck is going to go into the Roth and that I'll match it up to a limit. The rules, Canada may have something very similar and it probably has its own rules. But the idea is get them thinking about taking some money out of their paycheck, putting it into a long-term investment account and teach them what like just an index fund is, a diversified investment. And that's what's on my note card. Your note card might differ, but I think it's just helpful just to write down a couple of bullets and then keep it in view to remind you, because after all, family living is a zoo. If you don't have that reminder, you're going to forget. So that's why systems and automation are very helpful to stay on track.
That's excellent. I was big smile on my face. I have 2 children and they're very different, as all children are, unique. And I have a son who loves to invest he gives his father a certain amount every month and has been doing it for 4 years and loves to get his bank statements and see where his investments are. And we have a daughter that is in debt to her father for her laptop, and it's painful for her. It's
That's
really
right.
painful.
Yeah, and the other thing is, hang with it, because one benefit I have now that my oldest is, oh gosh, 1990, do the math, 28, she's going to be 28. You think these messages aren't getting through, and then they become young adults, and you realize, a lot of the messages they did absorb. And at first they kind of rolled their eyeballs at this whole what's an index fund or stuff, but if you review it every year, they start to get it. And then when they go off to college, they're like, wow, thank you for introducing me to that concept. Or when my daughter went off to college, she's like, the kids here, none of them have ever managed a budget. Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
So, stick with it, keep up the good fight. And, a lot of those messages that you think they're ignoring or rolling their eyes at, they're really absorbing. And that's heartening once they get older.
I love that idea that you're saying stick with it, because it is definitely a process, and we know that a lot of learning comes from mistakes. So we're going to see our kids blow through their money before the end of the month. We're going to see our kids make purchases that we may cringe about, that are within what they're allowed to buy, but it seems like such a big waste of money. And to allow them to, quote unquote, waste that money and figure out what that feels like and to learn from it is really important. And the beauty of it is that we have, and they have, their childhood to be able to learn and grow and make those mistakes. So no matter when we're starting, it's never too late to start teaching our kids these tools, because it does allow them to make the mistakes when the repercussions are not so great. And as you said, even though they're rolling their eyes, it's all going in.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. And you're
it.
preventing them from making a purchase. Yeah, that just causes anxiety and anger on their part. But allowing them to make a dumb purchase, and then allowing them to come to their own conclusion that they wasted their money, and dealing with some of the consequences, well, they feel completely in control of that, and they appreciate that they made a mistake. It's so much better than you lecturing them.
Isn't it?
Experiencing the bad experience, like my daughter decided that she was going to blow her entire clothing budget on a Neiman Marcus chiffon gown for a high school prom. Well, by the end of the year, she realized, that was a really dumb idea. I said, hey, my advice, which you can ignore, is that you probably won't ever use this thing again. She's like, Dad, whatever. But, go ahead, it's your money. And sure enough, it was a one and done kind of thing. And she went cold turkey on her clothing budget. And that was very memorable. So much better than me preventing the purchase.
Yeah, lots of learning to be had. Bill, speaking with you today has been just so interesting and reinforcing for us. Thank you for sharing your information with us. If listeners want to find out more information from you, I know you have some great articles that you write about financial learning for families. Where is the best place for people to follow you?
Well, the easiest thing is just to type FamZoo in Google. Some people say, what an absurd name. And they're right. It's kind of a dumb name. But the nice thing is you're not going to get anything but us if you type FAMZOO into Google. So there's no confusion. We do have a blog at blog.famzoo.com, and you'll find lots of articles there, and interact with us on Facebook or Twitter. Just reach out. So just Google FamZoo, and you'll find an avenue that works for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And remember, if anybody would like more information about Parenting Power, you can also follow us at parentingpower.ca. Join our Parenting Power family, and you can follow our blog there. Find out the best parenting strategy that works for you. It's been great talking with you, Bill, and look forward to learning more from you as we go forward.
Oh, Julie,
Thanks,
Gail,
Bill.
it's my pleasure.